Greetings. I'm going to talk to you today about angle relationship and congruency using the three figures that were provided. In this first figure we have two lines labeled L1 and L2 that intersect at some point P. I don't have that labeled, but it's pretty clear that the intersection point is right here. The intersection of these two lines creates four angles, which I have labeled A, B, C, and D. And using our definitions, we can say some things about the relationships between these angles. First thing we're going to talk about are vertical angles. These are opposite angles made by the same lines, and they are congruent. So in purple we have angle A and angle C. This is a pair of vertical angles and they are congruent. And in blue we have angle B and angle D. These are also vertical angles and they are also congruent. And this will be true no matter how we orient the lines, as long as they intersect at one point. Additionally, we can talk about linear pairs. If we take, for instance, line L1, it has A and D. Angle A and angle D are a linear pair, and the same is true for angle B and angle C. If we look at L2, we can say angle A and angle B are linear pairs, and angle D and angle C are linear pairs, and these will sum to 180 degrees. And if we combined all four angles, they would sum to a measure of 360 degrees, and which is the measure of a circle. In figure 2, we have two lines that are intersected by a third line, L3, which we will call our transversal line. If we extend L1 and L2 out, they will eventually intersect, so we can say that they are not parallel lines. At each intersection there are four angles, so the intersection of L1 and L3 we have A, B, C, and D. And at the intersection of L2 and L3 we have E, F, G, and H. So all told we have 8 angles. And again, we can talk about the relationship between vertical angles. So in purple I have angle A and angle C. These are two vertical angles and they are congruent. Angle B and angle D are a pair of vertical angles and they are also congruent. For the intersection of L2 and L3, in blue we have E and G as vertical angles and are congruent, and F and H as vertical angles and they are also congruent. Again, we can use our understanding of linear pairs. These are angles that are adjacent to each other, so that's an easy way to remember it. And for L1, this orange line, A and D are linear pairs, as well as B and C, and each pair will sum to 180 degrees. And if we combine all four angles again, they will equal a measure of 360 degrees, which is the measure of a circle. And the same can be said for the four angles created at the intersection of L2 and L3. In our final figure, we have two parallel lines, L1 and L2, cut by one line L3, which we will call our transversal line. And previously we talked about vertical angles and linear angles, but we're going to talk about three other types of angles in this figure. The first is corresponding angles. These are angles on the same side of the transversal, so either on this top side of L3 or on this bottom side of L3, and in corresponding or similar positions. So for example, angle A and angle E are corresponding angles and therefore are congruent. Angle B and angle F are corresponding angles and therefore are congruent. If we go to the other side of the transversal line, we have angle D and angle H and they are congruent, and angle C and angle G and they are congruent. The second type of angles I want to talk about are alternate exterior or alternate interior angles. These are angles on opposite sides of the transversal line and inside the parallel line. So it's going to be this area here. And using that definition, we can say angle C and angle E are alternate interior angles, and angle B and angle H are alternate interior angles. And finally, I want to talk about alternate exterior angles. And these are angles on opposite sides of the transversal and outside the parallel lines. So using that definition, angle A and angle G are alternate exterior angles, and angle D and angle F are also alternate exterior angles. Thank you for your time.